The dust rose in thick clouds as Daeho guided his horse through the gates of the trading post. He had been riding since dawn, leading a small herd of cattle across the dry plains of New Mesa. The planet was hot and unforgiving, but it was home. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the busy market ahead. The trading post was the only place on New Mesa where humans mixed with aliens. Daeho had seen many strange creatures here over the years, but he never got used to it. There were tall beings with 4 arms, small ones with scales, and some that floated in the air. They all came here to trade, to buy and sell goods from across the galaxy. Daeho tied his horse to a post and walked toward the livestock pens. He needed to sell his cattle and buy supplies for the ranch. The work was hard, but honest. He liked the simple life of a cowboy, far from the politics and wars that filled the galaxy. Across the market, hidden behind a food stall, Princess Hana watched the humans with curious eyes. She wore simple clothes, nothing like the royal robes she usually had to wear. Her skin glowed faintly with a soft blue light, a trait of all Velari people. She had covered most of her face with a hood, hoping no one would recognize her. Hana had escaped from her guards an hour ago. It was not easy, but she was desperate to see the human settlement. Her father, the Emperor, had forbidden all Velari from going near humans. He said they were dangerous, unpredictable, and would corrupt their way of life. But Hana did not believe him. She had read about humans in secret. Learning about their culture and history, they fascinated her. She moved through the crowd, careful to avoid attention. The smells of strange foods filled the air. Alien merchants called out their prices. Hana had never felt so free in her life. No guards telling her where to go. No servants watching her every move. Just her, alone in a crowd of strangers. Then she heard a loud noise. People shouted and scattered. Hana turned and saw a large animal running wild through the market. It was one of the human creatures called a horse. The animal was terrified, knocking over stalls and nearly trampling anyone in its path. Daeho ran after his horse, cursing under his breath. The animal had been spooked by a loud merchant ship landing nearby. He called out to the horse, trying to calm it, but the creature would not listen. Hana saw the horse heading straight for a group of children. Without thinking, she raised her hand. Her eyes glowed bright blue. The horse suddenly stopped in midair, its legs still running but going nowhere. Hana focused her mind, using her telekinetic powers to hold the animal in place. Daeho stopped running and stared. The horse floated above the ground, completely still except for its nervous breathing. He looked around and saw a hooded figure with a glowing hand pointed at his horse. Hana gently lowered the horse to the ground. The animal stood still now, calm and quiet. She walked over and stroked its nose, whispering soft words. The horse relaxed under her touch. Daeho approached slowly. "Thank you," he said. "That was impressive." Hana looked up at him. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Daeho saw the blue glow of her skin beneath the hood. A Velari. He had heard about them, but had never met one before. They were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. "Your animal was scared," Hana said softly. "Yeah," Daeho replied. "Something spooked him. I'm sorry for the trouble." Hana smiled. It was a genuine smile, warm and kind. Daeho found himself smiling back. "I have never seen a human before," Hana admitted. "Not in person." Daeho raised an eyebrow. "Really? There are lots of humans here." "I know," Hana said quietly. "But I am not supposed to be here." "Why not?" Hana hesitated. "It is complicated. My father says humans are dangerous." Daeho laughed. "Dangerous? Lady, I just chase cows for a living. I'm about as dangerous as a bag of flour." Hana laughed too. The sound was light and musical. "You are not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "I do not know." "Something different." The stories about humans make them sound like warriors and conquerors. Deho shrugged. Some are, I guess, but most of us just want to live our lives in peace. Work the land. Raise families. Nothing fancy. They stood in silence for a moment. The market had returned to normal around them. Merchants went back to selling. People walked past without noticing the cowboy and the alien princess. Would you like to sit down? Deho asked suddenly. There's a cantina over there. I could buy you a drink. As a thank you. For saving my horse. Hana knew she should say no. She should return to her ship before her guards found her. But something made her want to stay. This human seemed kind and honest. She wanted to know more about him. Yes, she said. I would like that. They walked to the cantina together. It was a small building with wooden walls and a dirt floor. Inside, a few humans sat at tables, drinking and talking. They looked at Hana with surprise when she entered. But Deho nodded at them, and they went back to their business. Deho ordered 2 drinks, and they sat at a corner table. Hana pulled back her hood slightly, revealing more of her glowing blue skin. What's your name? Deho asked. Hana, she replied. She did not tell him she was a princess. And you? Deho. I work at a ranch about 50 miles from here. What is a ranch? Deho smiled. It's a place where we raise animals. Cattle, horses, chickens. We grow crops too. It's hard work, but I like it. Hana listened as Deho talked about his life. He told her about the wide plains of New Mesa, about riding under the stars at night, about the satisfaction of building something with your own hands. His words painted pictures in her mind. She had lived in palaces all her life, surrounded by servants and luxury, but she had never felt the kind of peace and contentment she heard in Deho's voice. Why did you come here? Deho asked. If your people forbid it? Hana looked down at her drink. Because I wanted to see for myself. My father tells me many things about humans. That you are violent. That you destroy everything you touch. That you cannot be trusted, but I wanted to know the truth. And what do you think now? Hana looked into Deho's eyes. I think my father might be wrong. They talked for over an hour. Hana asked questions about Earth, about human culture, and history. Deho answered as best he could, though he admitted he was no scholar. He asked her about the Valari Empire, about life among the stars. Hana told him what she could, carefully avoiding any mention of her royal status. The conversation flowed easily between them. They laughed at each other's stories. They shared their thoughts and dreams. For those brief moments, they were not a human and an alien. They were just 2 people, enjoying each other's company. Then the door burst open. 4 Valari guards entered the cantina. Their armor gleamed silver. Their weapons hummed with energy. They scanned the room, and their eyes locked onto Hana. Princess, the lead guard said, firmly, you must come with us. Now. Hana's face went pale. She looked at Deho with apologetic eyes. I am sorry, she whispered. I did not tell you everything. Deho stood up slowly, his hand moving toward his belt. But Hana shook her head. Do not, she said. They will kill you. The guards surrounded their table. The lead guard looked at Deho with cold eyes. Human. Step away from the princess. Deho did not move. The lady can leave when she wants to leave. You do not understand the situation, the guard said. She is forbidden from contact with your kind. She seems smart enough to make her own choices, Deho replied calmly. Hana stood up and placed a hand on Deho's arm. It is all right, she said softly. I must go. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with soft blue light. She pressed it into Deho's hand. Keep this, she whispered. It will let me know you are thinking of me. And perhaps it will let us speak again. Before Deho could respond, the guards escorted Hana out of the cantina. She looked back once, her eyes meeting his. Then, she was gone. Daeho stood alone, holding the crystal in his hand. It pulsed with a gentle warmth. He looked down at it and wondered what he had just gotten himself into. Outside, as the guards led her to their ship, Hana smiled, despite everything. She had broken the rules. She had sat beside a human, and it had been the most wonderful afternoon of her entire life. Daeho could not stop thinking about the crystal. It sat on his bedside table, glowing softly in the darkness of his small cabin. 3 days had passed since he met Hana, and the crystal had not stopped pulsing with that gentle blue light. He reached over and picked it up. The moment his fingers touched the smooth surface, he heard a voice in his mind. Daeho, can you hear me? He nearly dropped the crystal in surprise. Hana? Yes. Her voice sounded relieved. I was not sure this would work. The crystal allows us to communicate across distances. Are you alone? Daeho looked around his empty cabin. Yeah, I'm alone. Where are you? On my father's flagship. We are 3 days' travel from New Mesa. I am confined to my quarters. My father is very angry with me. Because you talked to a human? Yes. He says I put myself in danger, that I violated sacred laws. Hana's voice grew sad. But I do not regret it. Meeting you showed me that everything I was taught might be wrong. Over the next few weeks, they talked every night through the crystal. Hana told him about life in the Valari Empire. She described the floating palaces, the council meetings, the endless rules and protocols. She was a princess, but she felt like a prisoner. Daeho told her about freedom, about making your own choices, about the cowboy code his grandfather had taught him. Be honest. Work hard. Stand up for what's right. And never let anyone tell you how to live your life. That sounds wonderful, Hana said one night. But it also sounds dangerous. If everyone does what they want, there would be chaos. Maybe, Daeho replied. But at least it would be our chaos. Our choice. Better than being told how to think and feel by someone else. These conversations changed something in Hana. She began to question everything she had been taught. If her father lied about humans being dangerous, what else had he lied about? One night, she decided to find answers. She waited until the guards changed shifts, then slipped out of her quarters. The flagship was enormous. With hundreds of corridors and chambers, Hana made her way to the Imperial Archives, a place she had only visited once as a child. The archives held the complete history of the Valari Empire. Every law, every decree, every piece of important information was stored here. Hana searched through the old records, looking for anything about humans. She found it in a file marked, Classified, Imperial Security. The document was 300 years old. It detailed the first contact between Valari and humans. Hana read, with growing shock. The report described how a small group of humans had helped a conquered species called the Riva overthrow Valari colonial rule. The humans had not used advanced weapons or large armies. Instead, they taught the Riva about resistance, about guerrilla tactics, about fighting for their freedom no matter the cost. The Riva rebellion had succeeded, and it inspired other conquered worlds to rise up. The Valari Empire had nearly collapsed from the wave of rebellions. They won in the end, crushing the uprisings with brutal force. But the Council never forgot. They blamed humans for everything, not because humans were violent, but because they spread dangerous ideas. Ideas about freedom, about self-determination, about refusing to bow to anyone. The emperor at that time had issued a decree. The official reason given was that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. But the real reason, written clearly in this classified document, was that human ideas threatened the very foundation of the empire. Hana's hands shook as she read. Her entire life had been built on lies. The empire she served, the father she loved. They had all lied to keep their power. She copied the files onto a data chip and returned to her quarters. That night, when she spoke to Dae-ho through the crystal, she told him everything. They fear us, Dae-ho said quietly, not because of what we can do, but because of what we believe. Dae-ho, 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 Dae-ho. Yes, Hana replied. And there is more. I have been listening to the council meetings. They are planning something. They want to quarantine all human colonies, to cut you off from the rest of the galaxy. They can't do that. They can. They will claim it is for everyone's safety. But the truth is, they want to contain your influence before more species learn about human ideas. Dae-ho was silent for a long moment. We have to warn people, both humans and aliens. If we don't, the Empire will lock us away and throw away the key. I agree. But how? I am watched constantly. I cannot leave the ship. Then we need help. The next day, Dae-ho rode into town and found Tae-young, a merchant who traded with dozens of alien species. Tae-young was old and wise, and he knew more about galactic politics than anyone else on New Mesa. The Valari are moving ships into position around human colonies, Tae-young confirmed. I have heard the rumors. They call it a protective cordon, but everyone knows what it really is. Can we stop them? Dae-ho asked. Tae-young stroked his beard thoughtfully. Maybe. If we can prove they are acting out of fear rather than genuine concern. If we can show other species what the Valari are really afraid of. Human ideas about freedom. Exactly. Many species in the galaxy are tired of Valari dominance. If they knew the truth, they might stand with humans. Dae-ho thought about this. We need evidence. Proof that the Valari fabricated the threat. Your princess friend might be able to help with that. That night, Dae-ho told Hana about his conversation with Tae-young. They formed a plan. Hana would gather more evidence from the archives. She would record council meetings. She would build a case that proved the Empire's true intentions. But things moved faster than they expected. 2 days later, Valari warships appeared in orbit around New Mesa. Dae-ho watched from his ranch as the massive ships blocked out the sun. Then, the announcements came. All humans were to relocate to designated areas. It was for their protection and safety. Dae-ho knew what this really meant. The quarantine had begun. He rode to the nearest settlement and found chaos. Families were packing their belongings. Children were crying. Some people wanted to fight. Others wanted to flee. No one knew what to do. Ji-woo, Dae-ho's closest friend and a fellow rancher, grabbed his arm. What do we do? If we resist, they will kill us. If we comply, we lose everything. Dae-ho thought about his conversations with Hana, about the Cowboy Code, about standing up for what's right. We resist, he said. But not with violence. We use our minds. We make this difficult for them. We show the galaxy what the Valari are really doing. They organized quickly. The human settlers refused to leave peacefully. They did not attack the Valari forces, but they did not cooperate either. They blocked roads with their vehicles. They hid in the canyons and hills. They used their knowledge of the terrain to stay one step ahead. The Valari had advanced technology, but the humans had something else: determination and creativity. Every time the Valari tried to round them up, the humans found a new way to slip away. News of the resistance spread across the colony. More settlers joined. They were not warriors, just farmers and ranchers and ordinary people. But they refused to give up their freedom without a fight. Meanwhile, on the flagship, Hana watched the reports with a mixture of pride and fear. She saw Dae-ho on the security feeds, leading groups of settlers to safety. She saw the Valari commanders growing frustrated. Then she made a decision that would change everything. She accessed the ship's communication system and sent a message to Minho, the guard who had found her at the cantina. Minho was young and had always been kind to her. She hoped he might understand. Minho, I need to speak with you privately. Please come to my quarters. When Minho arrived, Hana told him everything. She showed him the evidence she had gathered. She explained the truth about the quarantine. She expected him to report her immediately. Instead, Minho sat down heavily. I have wondered about this for a long time, he said quietly. My family came from a conquered world. We have served the Empire loyally, but I have always questioned whether we serve out of loyalty or fear. Will you help me? Hana asked. Minho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Yes, Princess. I will help you. Together, they formed a plan. It was dangerous and probably impossible, but it was their only chance. Hana spoke to Daeho through the crystal that night. I am coming to New Mesa, she said. I am going to escape and bring the evidence with me. Together, we will show the galaxy the truth. That's suicide, Daeho said. They will hunt you down. I know, but I cannot sit here and do nothing while innocent people suffer. You taught me about the Cowboy Code, about standing up for what is right. Now I must follow it. Daeho felt his chest tighten with worry. But he also felt something else. Pride. Respect. And maybe something more. Then we will stand together, he said. Come to New Mesa. We will be waiting. 3 days later, a small Velari shuttle broke away from the flagship. Alarms blared. Ships gave chase. But the shuttle was fast, and the pilot was skilled. Minho guided the shuttle through an asteroid field, losing their pursuers. Beside him, Hana held the data chip containing all the evidence they needed. They were fugitives now. Traitors to the Empire. But they were also free. And they were heading toward New Mesa. Toward Daeho. Toward a chance to change the galaxy. The shuttle crashed in the middle of the night. Daeho heard the explosion from his cabin and ran outside to see a fireball streaking across the sky. It hit the ground about 2 miles from his ranch, sending up a cloud of dust and smoke. He saddled his horse and rode hard toward the crash site. His heart pounded in his chest. He knew who was on that shuttle. Hana had warned him she was coming, but he had not expected her arrival to be so violent. When he reached the crash site, the shuttle was lying on its side, smoke pouring from the damaged engines. Daeho jumped off his horse and ran to the hatch. It opened with a hiss, and Minho stumbled out, coughing and bleeding from a cut on his forehead. The princess? Minho gasped. Help her. Daeho climbed into the shuttle and found Hana trapped under a fallen panel. Her blue skin was dim, barely glowing. He lifted the panel off her and carried her out into the cool night air. Hana, he said, checking her pulse. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw his face, she smiled weakly. You're crazy, Daeho said. But he was smiling too. Come on. We need to get you somewhere safe. He helped both Hana and Minho onto his horse, then led them back to his ranch. By the time they arrived, Hana had regained some of her strength. Daeho brought them inside and tended to their wounds. They will be looking for us, Minho said. The entire fleet saw us escape. Let them look, Daeho replied. This planet is big, and we know it better than they do. Hana reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data chip. Despite the crash, it was undamaged. This contains everything we need. Proof of the conspiracy. Evidence that the Empire fabricated the threat about humans. Then we need to get this information out, Daeho said. But first, we need to show it to the other settlers. They need to know what they are really fighting against. The next morning, Daeho called a meeting at the main settlement. Nearly 200 humans gathered in the town square. They looked tired and scared. The Velari warships still hung in the sky like dark clouds. When Hana walked out to address them, many people gasped. A Velari princess standing among them was the last thing they expected. Some reached for their weapons. Wait, Daeho said, stepping between Hana and the crowd. She's here to help us. She has risked everything to bring us the truth. Jiwoo pushed forward from the crowd. Why should we trust her? She's one of them. Because she gave up everything to be here, Daeho replied. Her title, her family, her home. She is a fugitive now. Just like us. Hana stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. My name is Hana. I am the daughter of Emperor Seung, and I am here to tell you that everything my people have told the galaxy about humans is a lie. She activated a holographic projector and showed them the evidence. The classified documents. The recordings of council meetings. The truth about why the Valari feared humans. The crowd watched in silence as the images played out before them. They saw how, 300 years ago, humans had inspired enslaved species to fight for their freedom. They saw how the Valari Council had panicked and created laws to keep humans isolated. They saw how the current quarantine was just another attempt to contain human influence. When the presentation ended, the square was silent. Then, Jiwoo spoke up. So, they don't fear us because we are violent, he said slowly. They fear us because we believe in freedom. Yes, Hana replied. You are dangerous to them, not because of your weapons, but because of your ideas. You teach people to think for themselves, to question authority, to fight for their rights. These ideas threaten every empire built on control and domination. An older woman named Su Jin stepped forward. She was the settlement's tech expert. If we have this evidence, we can broadcast it across the galaxy. We can show everyone what the Valari are really doing. When 10-1. That's exactly what we need to do, Daeho said. But we can't do it from here. The Valari are jamming all our communications. We need to get to a neutral location with a strong transmitter. Tae Young, who had been standing at the back of the crowd, raised his hand. There is a place. The asteroid station called Freehold. It is neutral territory, governed by no empire. They have communication equipment powerful enough to reach every corner of the galaxy. How far is it? Daeho asked. 3 weeks by standard ship. But we would have to get past the Valari blockade first. Minho spoke up. I can get us past the blockade. I know their patrol patterns and security codes. But we would need a fast ship. Taeyong grinned. I have a ship. It's old, but it's fast. And it has a few modifications that might surprise the Valari. The plan came together quickly. Daeho, Hana, Minho, Sujin, and Taeyong would travel to Freehold. Once there, they would broadcast the evidence to the entire galaxy. The rest of the settlers would continue their resistance, keeping the Valari forces distracted. Jiwoo grabbed Daeho's shoulder. You're really doing this? Going up against an entire empire? Daeho looked at Hana, who stood tall and determined, despite everything she had lost. Yeah, he said. Someone has to. They left that night under cover of darkness. Taeyong's ship was indeed old. A battered cargo vessel that had seen better days, but the engines hummed with power, and the hull was reinforced with military-grade armor. Where did you get this ship? Sujin asked suspiciously. Taeyong smiled. Let's just say I have not always been a simple merchant. They lifted off quietly, flying low over the terrain to avoid detection. When they finally broke atmosphere, they saw the Valari blockade. Dozens of warships arranged in a tight formation around the planet. How do we get past that? Daeho asked. Minho sat at the navigation console. I am transmitting our old security codes. As far as their sensors know, we are a Valari patrol vessel. Our Valari patrol vessel. They flew straight toward the blockade. Daeho held his breath as they approached the massive warships. Any moment, he expected weapons to lock onto them. But the deception worked. The warships did not fire. They passed through the blockade and jumped into hyperspace. For the first time in days, they could relax. Daeho found Hana standing in the cargo bay, looking out at the stars through a small window. Having second thoughts? He asked. Hana shook her head. No. For the first time in my life, I feel like I am doing something that matters. Something real. You gave up a lot. Your title, your family, your whole life. I did not give it up. Hana said softly. I traded it for something better. Freedom. Truth. The chance to make a real difference. She looked at him. You taught me that some things are worth fighting for. Daeho stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Your father is going to send everything he has after us. I know. But we are not alone. Look. She activated a communication screen. Messages were coming in from across the galaxy. Other species who had heard about the resistance on New Mesa. Some offered support. Others asked questions. A few even shared their own stories of Valari oppression. The word is spreading, Hana said. Even without the broadcast, people are starting to ask questions. Their journey to Freehold took 2 weeks. During that time, they were not idle. Sujin worked with Hana to compile all the evidence into a clear, undeniable presentation. Minho monitored Valari communications and warned them of patrol routes. Tae-young kept the ship running and told stories of his adventures across the galaxy. And Daeho? He spent his time learning about galactic politics, about the different species and their histories. He also spent time with Hana, talking late into the night about their hopes and fears. One night, Hana asked him a question that had been on her mind. Are you afraid? Of course. Daeho admitted. We are going up against one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. If we fail, we will probably die. Then why do you do it? Daeho thought about his grandfather, about the Cowboy Code, about everything he believed in. Because it is the right thing to do. Because if we don't stand up for what's right, then what's the point of anything? Hana reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm, and the blue glow pulsed gently. I am glad I met you, she said quietly. Me too, Daeho replied. But their peaceful journey was not to last. On the 14th day, alarms blared throughout the ship. We have company, Tae-young shouted from the cockpit. 3 Valari pursuit ships, closing fast. Daeho and Hana ran to the cockpit. On the scanner, 3 sleek warships were gaining on them. Can we outrun them? Daeho asked. Not for long, Tae-young said. They are military vessels, faster and better armed than us. Minho studied the scanner. They are not firing. They want to capture us alive. That might work in our favor, Sujin said. If they get close enough, I can hack their systems. You can do that? Hana asked. Sujin grinned. I have been working on Valari code for years. Give me a chance, and I will shut them down. What followed was a desperate chase through an asteroid field. Tae-young flew like a madman, weaving between massive rocks, while the Valari ships followed. Sujin worked at her console, trying to break into the enemy systems. One of the Valari ships fired a warning shot. The blast nearly clipped their wing. They are losing patience, Minho said. Just a few more seconds, Sujin muttered. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Got it. 2 of the Valari ships suddenly went dark. Their engines cut out, and they drifted helplessly in space. But the 3rd ship kept coming. This one has better security, Sujin said. I can't hack it. The ship fired again, this time hitting their aft shields. The ship shook violently. Shields at 40%, Tae-young reported. Daeho made a decision. He grabbed the controls for the ship's cargo system. Minho, angle us toward that large asteroid. Tae-young, on my mark. Cut all power. That will kill our shields, Tae-young protested. Trust me. They flew straight at the asteroid. The Valari ship followed, preparing to fire again. At the last second, Daeho released the cargo bay doors and dumped their entire supply of ore into space. Now, he shouted. Tae-young cut the power. Their ship went dark and drifted behind the asteroid. The Valari ship, unable to stop in time, flew straight into the cloud of ore debris. The metal chunks tore into their hull, shredding their shields and damaging their engines. The Valari ship limped away, too damaged to continue the chase. Tae-young restarted their engines and they escaped into hyperspace. Everyone sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then, Minho started laughing. "That was insane," he said. "Brilliant, but insane. Human ingenuity," Hana said, looking at Dae-ho with admiration. "We are not safe yet," Dae-ho said. "They know where we are heading. More ships will come. Then we better move fast," Tae-young said. "Freehold is just 3 days away. If we can get there, we can finish this." They pushed the ship to its limits, racing toward their destination. Behind them, an entire empire mobilized to stop them. Ahead of them lay their only chance to change the galaxy. The battle for truth had begun. Freehold Station hung in space like a massive metal flower. It was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, with docking bays spreading out like petals. Ships from hundreds of different species came and went, making it one of the busiest trading hubs in the galaxy. More importantly, Freehold was neutral territory. No empire could claim it. No military force could control it. It was governed by a council of representatives from dozens of species, all dedicated to keeping it a free port where anyone could trade, meet, or conduct business without interference. It was the perfect place to broadcast their message. Tae-young guided their damaged ship into a docking bay. The moment they landed, they were met by station security. A tall alien with 6 arms and compound eyes approached them. "Welcome to Freehold," the alien said in the common galactic language. "I am Security Chief Yuna. We have been expecting you." Dae-ho exchanged glances with Hana. Yuna's mouth parts curved into what might have been a smile. "News travels fast in the galaxy. We know about the resistance on New Mesa. We know about the Valari quarantine. And we know that a fugitive princess is traveling with humans to expose the truth." She paused. "The council has agreed to hear your case." They were escorted to the station's central hub. As they walked through the corridors, Dae-ho marveled at the diversity around him. He saw species he had never encountered before, speaking languages he could not understand, wearing clothes, and carrying tools that seemed like magic. Hana walked beside him, her hood pulled up to hide her glowing skin. But many people still noticed her. Word of a Valari princess traveling with humans had already spread through the station. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in tiers. Representatives from 30 different species sat waiting. At the center was a platform where speakers could address the assembly. Yuna led them to the platform. "You have been granted 1 hour to present your case," she said. "Use it wisely." Dae-ho looked at the assembled representatives. Some looked curious, others looked skeptical. A few looked openly hostile. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "My name is Dae-ho," he began. "I am a rancher from New Mesa. I am not a politician or a soldier. I am just someone who believes in doing what is right." He gestured to Hana, who stepped forward and lowered her hood. The blue glow of her skin filled the chamber. Gasps echoed through the crowd. "This is Princess Hana, daughter of Emperor Seung of the Valari Empire," Dae-ho continued. "She has risked everything to bring you the truth about why the Valari fear humans, and why that truth matters to all of you." Hana activated the holographic display. The evidence they had gathered filled the air above them. Documents, recordings, classified files. Everything was there. She spoke with a clear, strong voice. "For 300 years, my people have told the galaxy that humans are dangerous, that they are violent and unpredictable. But this is not the truth. The real reason the Valari fear humans is because of what they believe." She showed them the historical records. The story of the Riva Rebellion. How a small group of humans had taught an enslaved species to fight for their freedom. How that single act had inspired uprisings across a dozen worlds. Humans did not conquer or destroy, Hana explained. They taught. They shared ideas about liberty, about self-determination, about the right of every being to control their own destiny. These ideas terrified the Valari Council because they threatened the foundation of our empire. She played recordings of recent council meetings. The representatives heard Valari officials discussing the quarantine. They heard Chancellor Bora saying that humans must be contained before their revolutionary ideas spread further. The chamber fell silent as the presentation ended. Then a representative stood up. It was a member of the Riva species, the same species humans had helped 3 centuries ago. "I am Elder Kyung," the Riva said. "My ancestors lived through the rebellion you speak of. They told stories of the humans who came to our world. Not as conquerors, but as teachers and friends. Those humans helped us break our chains. For this, we have never forgotten them." Another representative stood. Then another. Species after species shared their own stories. Some had been conquered by the Valari. Others had been threatened or controlled. Many had dreamed of freedom but believed it was impossible. But not everyone was convinced. A representative from a species allied with the Valari spoke up. "These are just words and images. How do we know this evidence is real? How do we know this is not some elaborate deception?" Before anyone could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. Yuna's voice came over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. A Valari fleet has entered the sector. They are demanding we surrender the fugitives immediately." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives argued and shouted. Some demanded that Daeho and Hana be handed over to prevent conflict. Others insisted that Freehold's neutrality must be protected. Daeho stepped forward again. "You want proof that this evidence is real? The Valari fleet outside is your proof. They are here because they fear what we will reveal. If we were lying, they would not care." He looked around the chamber at all the different species. "I know you are all afraid. The Valari Empire is powerful. Going against them could mean war. But I have learned something over the past few weeks. Freedom is worth fighting for. Truth is worth defending. And sometimes, doing the right thing means taking a risk." Hana joined him at the center of the platform. "I am the daughter of the Emperor, but I stand here with humans because they showed me what it means to be truly free. They showed me that no empire, no matter how powerful, has the right to control how people think or live." Elder Kyung stood up again. "The Riva people stand with the humans. We will not forget what they did for us." One by one, other representatives stood. The species that had suffered under various empires. The ones who had dreamed of freedom but never dared to act. They were not all convinced, but enough of them were willing to take a stand. Yuna returned to the chamber. "The Valari are demanding entry to the station. They say they will use force if necessary. The council must decide. Do we surrender the fugitives, or do we defend our neutrality?" The vote was close. But in the end, the council chose to defend their principles. Freehold would not surrender to threats. "Then we need to broadcast the evidence now," Sujin said, "before the Valari can stop us." They were taken to the station's main communication center. Sujin immediately began working on the equipment. "This transmitter can reach every major communications hub in the galaxy," she said. "Once we broadcast, there will be no taking it back." Outside the station, the Valari fleet moved into attack position. They had brought 20 warships, enough firepower to destroy the station several times over. Chancellor Bora's face appeared on all the screens in the communication center. She looked furious. "Princess Hana, you have committed treason against your people. Surrender yourself immediately, and the station will be spared." Hana looked at the screen with calm eyes. "Chancellor Bora, I have committed no treason. I have only told the truth. Something you and the council have been hiding for centuries. You speak of things you do not understand, child. The stability of the entire galaxy depends on maintaining order. Your human friends would bring chaos." "No," Hana replied. "You fear change. You fear losing your power. But the truth cannot be hidden forever." She nodded to Sujin. "Broadcast it. Now." Sujin's fingers flew across the controls. The evidence they had gathered began transmitting across every frequency, to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of beings would see it. There was no stopping it now. Chancellor Bora's face twisted with rage. "You have doomed yourselves. Fire on the station." But before the Valari ships could fire, something unexpected happened. Ships from other species began arriving. The Riva sent their defense fleet. Other species contributed what they could. Within minutes, Freehold was surrounded by a defensive ring of dozens of ships from multiple civilizations. The broadcast has reached the Allied worlds, Una reported. They are responding. Many are calling for the Valari to stand down. More and more ships arrived. Species that had stayed silent for years were now taking action. They had seen the evidence. They knew the truth. And they were tired of being afraid. The Valari fleet found itself outnumbered. Chancellor Bora appeared on the screen again, but this time she looked uncertain. "This is not over," she said. "The Emperor will respond to this rebellion with force. Then let him come," Deho said. "We are not afraid anymore." The Valari fleet withdrew. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The evidence had been broadcast, but the real battle was yet to come. That night, as they rested in quarters provided by the station, Hana looked out at the gathering fleet. Ships from dozens of species, all united by a common cause. "We did it," she said softly. "The truth is out there now." Deho stood beside her. "I know, and I will have to face him eventually." She turned to look at Deho. "Are you afraid?" "Terrified," Deho admitted. "But also hopeful. Look at what we have accomplished. A few weeks ago, I was just a cowboy herding cattle. Now I am part of something bigger than myself." Hana smiled. "You were always part of something bigger. You just did not know it yet. Humans have this quality. You inspire others simply by being who you are." Over the next few days, the situation escalated. The Valari Empire demanded that all species cut ties with humans. But many refused. The evidence Hana had provided was too damning. Questions were being asked throughout the galaxy. Representatives from various species began arriving at Freehold, wanting to form an alliance. They called themselves the Free Worlds Coalition. It was not an army or an empire, but a loose organization of species committed to defending their autonomy. Deho found himself in the middle of diplomatic meetings. He was completely out of his depth, but people wanted to hear from him. They wanted to hear from a human who had stood up to an empire. "I am just a rancher," he kept saying. "I do not know anything about politics." "That is exactly why they trust you," Tae-young explained. "You are genuine. You speak from the heart. Politicians and diplomats speak in careful words and hidden meanings, but you say what you believe, and people respect that." One night, as Deho was walking back to his quarters, Minho approached him. The young Valari guard looked troubled. "I need to tell you something," Minho said. "I have been monitoring Valari military channels. The Emperor is gathering his forces. He is planning a major offensive. Against Freehold. Against all the species that have joined the Free Worlds Coalition. He sees this as a rebellion that must be crushed." Deho felt a chill run through him. "How much time do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe less. He is mobilizing the entire Imperial fleet." Deho found Hana and told her the news. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Then we have no choice. Someone must go to the Valari homeworld and try to negotiate peace. They will never agree to meet with us. They will meet with me. I am still a princess, and I am the only one who might be able to reason with my father. That is too dangerous. He could imprison you or worse." Hana took Deho's hands in hers. "I know. But if there is even a small chance to prevent a war, I have to try. Too many lives are at stake." Deho wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. She had made up her mind. "Then I am coming with you," he said. "Deho, no arguments. You taught me about standing up for what is right. Well, this is me standing up. We face this together." Hana's eyes glistened with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. They began preparing for the most dangerous journey of all. A trip to the heart of the Valari Empire. To face an emperor who had the power to destroy worlds. But they would not face him alone. Representatives from the Free Worlds Coalition volunteered to join them. A delegation of different species, united in their desire for peace but prepared to fight if necessary. As their ship prepared to depart, Yuna gave them one final piece of advice. Remember, you are not just fighting for humans or for any single species. You are fighting for an idea, the idea that all beings have the right to be free. Never lose sight of that. Deho nodded. He thought about his grandfather, about the Cowboy Code, about everything that had brought him to this moment. They departed from Freehold with hope in their hearts and fear in their minds. The fate of the galaxy now rested on their ability to convince one man that freedom was worth more than power. The final confrontation was approaching. The Valari homeworld was beautiful in a way that took Deho's breath away. Floating cities drifted among the clouds, connected by bridges of light. The sky shimmered with colors he had no names for. Everything was perfect, ordered, and controlled. It was the heart of an empire that ruled hundreds of worlds. And Deho was about to challenge it. Their delegation ship was escorted by Valari warships from the moment they entered the system. Hana had sent a message ahead, requesting an audience with her father. The Emperor had agreed, though his response had been cold and formal. "He will listen," Hana said, trying to sound confident. "He must." Minho, who had served the imperial family for years, shook his head. "Then I will make him listen," Hana replied. They landed at the Imperial Palace, a massive structure that floated above the capital city. Guards surrounded them immediately. But these were not ordinary guards. They were the Emperor's elite warriors, each one capable of defeating dozens of enemies. The delegation was led through corridors of polished crystal and precious metals. Everything spoke of power and wealth. Deho felt out of place in his simple clothes, but he walked with his head held high. They entered the throne room. It was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. At the far end sat Emperor Sung on a throne of pure energy. He was tall and imposing, his skin glowing with a brilliant blue light. Around him stood the council members, including Chancellor Bora. Hana walked forward and knelt. "Father, I have returned." The Emperor's voice was like thunder. "You are no daughter of mine. You betrayed your people. You sided with primitives. You released classified information that has brought chaos to the galaxy." Hana stood up. "I released the truth, something that should never have been hidden." "Truth?" The Emperor laughed bitterly. "You are a child who does not understand the burden of leadership. Order must be maintained. Stability must be preserved. The Valari Empire has brought peace to hundreds of worlds." Deho stepped forward. The guards moved to stop him, but Hana raised her hand. "This is Deho," she said. "The human I told you about." The Emperor looked at Deho with disdain. "A cowboy from a frontier world thinks he can address the ruler of the Valari Empire? With respect, Your Majesty," Deho said, his voice steady despite his fear. "I am here to speak not just for humans, but for all the beings in this galaxy who want to live freely." "Freely?" Chancellor Bora interjected. "Your kind knows nothing of freedom. You are barely civilized. You fight among yourselves constantly. You destroy your own worlds with your carelessness. We are not perfect," Deho admitted. "But we try. We learn. We grow. And we believe that every being has the right to choose their own path, even if that path is difficult." He looked around the throne room at all the wealth and power on display. "You have built something impressive here, but it is built on fear, on control, on keeping people from thinking for themselves." The Emperor's eyes blazed. "You dare to lecture me on governance? My empire has existed for thousands of years. Your species was living in caves when we were traveling the stars." "Maybe," Deho said. "But age does not make something right. Slavery existed for thousands of years on Earth before we ended it. Sometimes Old systems need to change. Before the Emperor could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. A guard rushed in and whispered urgently to Chancellor Bora. Her face went pale. "What is it?" the Emperor demanded. "The rebellion has spread," Bora said. 15 more worlds have declared independence. They are demanding representation and autonomy. Some have even begun arming themselves. The Emperor stood up, his form crackling with energy. "Then we will crush them. Ready the fleet. We will remind the galaxy why the Valari Empire is not to be challenged." "Father, no!" Hana cried out. "If you attack, you will start a war that will consume the entire galaxy. Millions will die. Then they will die knowing their place," the Emperor said coldly. Deho thought quickly. He knew they were losing. The Emperor was not going to listen to reason, but there had to be a way to reach him. "Your Majesty," Deho said, "may I ask you a question? When you look at your empire, what do you see?" The Emperor frowned. "What kind of question is that?" "An honest one. Do you see happy citizens grateful for your protection? Or do you see people who obey because they have no other choice? People need guidance. They need order. Without strong leadership, there is only chaos. But is that really true?" Deho gestured to Hana. "Your daughter grew up with everything she could want. She had wealth, power, status, but she gave it all up. Why? Because she wanted to be free, to make her own choices, to stand for what she believed was right." He stepped closer, ignoring the guards who tensed around him. "If your own daughter, who loves you, chose freedom over your empire, what does that tell you?" For the first time, the Emperor's expression faltered. He looked at Hana, really looked at her. She stood tall and proud, her eyes meeting his, without fear. "I did not leave because I stopped loving you," Hana said softly. "I left because I could not be part of a system built on lies. You taught me to value truth and honor. How could I ignore the truth when I found it?" And the throne room fell silent. The Emperor sat back down, and for a moment, he looked tired. Tired and old. "What would you have me do?" he asked quietly. "Surrender my empire?" "Not surrender," Deho said. "Transform. Change the empire into something better. A confederation, where worlds govern themselves, but work together. Where species cooperate as equals rather than subjects and rulers." "Impossible. The Council would never agree." "The Council fears change because they fear losing power," Hana said. "But Father, you are the Emperor. You have the authority to make this happen." Chancellor Bora stepped forward. "Your Majesty, do not listen to them. They seek to destroy everything we have built. If we show weakness now, the Empire will collapse. Or," said a new voice, "the Empire will evolve into something stronger." Everyone turned. Elder Kyung of the Riva had entered the throne room, along with representatives from a dozen other species. Behind them stood Yuna and what looked like thousands of citizens from various worlds, all gathered outside the palace. "We have surrounded the palace," Elder Kyung said calmly. "Not to attack, but to be heard. We represent the voices of billions who want change. The broadcast has awakened something that cannot be put back to sleep." The Emperor looked at the monitors showing the crowds outside. Species from all over the Empire had come to the home world. They carried signs and banners calling for freedom and reform. "This is rebellion," Bora hissed. "We must suppress it immediately." "No," the Emperor said slowly. "This is inevitable." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the gathered crowds. "I have ruled for 300 years. I have conquered worlds and built an empire, but I have never asked if my subjects wanted what I gave them." He turned back to face Hana and Deho. "I thought I was protecting the galaxy from chaos, but perhaps I was just protecting my own power." Chancellor Bora looked shocked. "Your Majesty, you cannot mean—" "Silence, Bora." The Emperor's voice was firm. Your counsel has brought us to the brink of war. Perhaps it is time to try a different path. He descended from his throne and walked to stand before his daughter. Hana, you have shown more courage than I have seen in any warrior. You risked everything for what you believed was right. Can you forgive your father for being blind? Hana's eyes filled with tears. There is nothing to forgive. You did what you thought was best. Now we can do better together. The emperor turned to the assembled council. I am dissolving the imperial government as it currently exists. In its place, we will create a new system. A confederation of free worlds, where each species has representation and autonomy. Bora stepped forward, her face twisted with rage. I will not allow this. Guards, arrest the emperor. He has clearly been corrupted by these primitives. But the guards did not move. They looked at each other uncertainly. Minho stepped forward, removing his helmet. The guards will not follow you, Chancellor. We serve the emperor. Yes, but we also serve justice. And this is just. Bora reached for a weapon, but Yuna was faster. The security chief disarmed her in a single smooth motion. The old order is dead, Yuna said. Accept it, or be left behind. Bora was led away, shouting threats and curses. But no one paid attention. The moment had passed her by. Over the next few weeks, the galaxy transformed. The Emperor worked with representatives from hundreds of worlds to create a new government structure. It was difficult and messy, with countless arguments and disagreements. But it was democratic. It was fair. The Valari Empire became the Galactic Confederation. Each world sent representatives to a central council. Decisions were made by consensus rather than decree. It was not perfect, but it was better. Humans were welcomed as equal partners. New Mesa and other human colonies joined the Confederation. Daiho became an unofficial ambassador, helping to bridge the gap between species. One evening, 6 months after the confrontation in the throne room, Daiho and Hana stood on a balcony overlooking their new home. They had established a ranch on the border between what used to be human and Valari space. It was a symbol of the new era. The ranch was simple but beautiful. Rolling hills stretched to the horizon. Cattle grazed peacefully. In the distance, a Valari city floated in the sky, its lights twinkling like stars. Do you ever regret it? Daiho asked. Giving up your title? Your old life? Hana leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Not for a moment. I traded a throne for freedom, a palace for a home, power for purpose. She looked up at him, and I found something more valuable than any empire. What's that? Someone who sees me not as a princess or a political figure, but just as Hana. Someone who taught me that the bravest thing you can do is stand up for what is right, no matter the cost. Daiho smiled. I learned that from my grandfather. He used to say that a man's worth is not measured by what he owns, but by what he stands for. He sounds wise. He was. I wish he could have met you. He would have liked you. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over their land. In the distance, they could see ships from different species landing at the small spaceport they had built. The ranch had become a meeting place for those who wanted to learn about the new way of life. Jiwoo and Sujin had joined them, helping to run the ranch and organize educational programs. Taeyong visited often, bringing news from across the galaxy. Even Minho had left his military service to work on the ranch, finding peace in the simple life. The Emperor sent a message, Hana said. He wants to visit next month. How do you feel about that? Good. Nervous, but good. He is trying, Daiho. Really trying to be better. Change always takes time, Daiho said. But at least now people have hope. That's something. As night fell, they went inside. The cabin was warm and filled with the smell of cooking food. Their friends were gathered around the table, laughing and sharing stories. Sujin was explaining some new technology to Minho, who listened with fascination. Jiwoo was arm wrestling with a visiting alien, both of them grinning. Taeyong was cooking, mixing recipes from a dozen different cultures. This was what they had fought for. Not grand political victories or military conquests. Just the simple freedom to live, to choose, to be themselves. Later that night, as they prepared for bed, Hana looked at the crystal she had given Daeho months ago. It sat on their nightstand, still glowing softly. "Do you remember when I gave you that?" she asked. "How could I forget? You were a mysterious alien who used magic to stop my horse. Then you told me you were not allowed to be near humans." Hana laughed. "Yet I sat beside you anyway. Best decision I ever made." Lonai Sevences. Second best, Daeho corrected with a smile. "Oh, what was the best? Coming back, standing up to your father, fighting for what you believed in." He pulled her close. "You changed the galaxy, Hana. Never forget that. We changed it together. A cowboy and a princess. Who would have thought?" They looked out the window at the stars above. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were living freer lives because of what had happened. Children were growing up with hope. Species were learning to work together instead of dominating each other. It was not perfect. There were still problems, still conflicts, still disagreements. But there was also dialogue, cooperation, understanding, and at the heart of it all was a simple idea that a human had shared with an alien princess. The idea that every being, no matter how small or powerless they seemed, had the right to be free, to choose their own path, to stand up for what they believed was right. Daeho thought about his grandfather's words, about the cowboy code, about doing what is right even when it is hard. He smiled. Somehow, a simple rancher from a frontier world had helped change the galaxy, not through violence or conquest, but through truth and courage and the willingness to stand beside someone he was told to fear. As he drifted off to sleep, holding Hana close, he felt at peace. The fight was not over. It would never truly be over. But they had won something important. They had won the freedom to choose. And that, he thought, was worth everything. The end.